Writer's Legacy is a 2024 action fantasy webtoon created by Jafon and his team in French webtoon studio Flat Cat. It takes place in a world where writers are the most powerful beings on Earth, the strongest among them having the ability to bring their story to life, mainly those who are a part of the Blessed Bloodlines, descendants of famous classic book authors such as Victor Hugo, Lewis Carroll, and Charles Dickens. We follow Lee Ji-sung, who starts as a low-ranking underdog writer working at a publishing house, yet secretly carries plans to avenge his deceased mother. With a strange visit by his spirit though, he learns that he is from a blessed bloodline, meaning that he now has immense potential in his powers as a writer. Unfortunately, he is not supposed to exist, meaning Ji-sung must survive new powerful enemies who want him dead, while searching for answers about his past. In spite of this interesting premise, it is widely considered a mediocre webtoon. The characters feel archetypical, the setting is nothing new, and the art is awkward, but they are all just enough to enjoy for those who don't care much about those things. Still, this is a podcast that focuses more on seeing beyond the surface. What makes this webtoon stand out from other action fantasies is that it centers around the beloved authors of classic literature. Nonetheless, Writer's Legacy fails this most unique concept by disregarding the writer's works as a whole and neglecting to treat them with understanding and respect. Hi, I'm Sua, and welcome to the third episode of Feels Like Literature, where I review and analyze stories across media to find what makes a classic. With the word legacy, it first appeared as though the webtoon was referring to the timeless themes within the writer's works, as many of them have undoubtedly shaped readers' views of the world for countless generations. Unfortunately, the legacy that it is referring to is closer to bloodlines and maintaining the power in the writer's names, and has almost nothing to do with their life's work. It ultimately ignores the writer's legacy by showing nothing but basic and shallow knowledge of their stories. The most evident example of this is in the portrayal of Isabella Dickens, the powerful descendant of Charles Dickens, noted to be infamous for her sadistic cruelty. Upon encountering Dickens, Julius Hugo claims that the Dickens family has always prized dishonor and violence. She confirms this by smirking as her servant becomes cornered by Hugo's subordinates, watching and doing nothing, while the servant desperately cries out for her help. Yet, if the creators of this webtoon had read Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, they would have known that Isabella Dickens' actions and demeanor directly contradict what the author had stood for. In the novel, Dickens sets a story around the French Revolution, an era notorious for mass beheadings. Though he depicts vivid scenes of death and animalistic brutality on the guillotine, this was never what Dickens supported. Rather, the author was warning the readers against mindless violence and the power of blindly following the crowd, encouraging people not to fall into the path of unjustified retribution for the sake of vengeance. In addition, the main protagonist of this book, Charles Darnay, carries the qualities of selflessness and a desire to help the oppressed. He is shown to nobly yet blindly set out for France to save a servant in danger, showing his determination to save those unable to help themselves. With Darnay being the representation of Charles Dickens, this contrast makes it clear that Isabella Dickens' actions towards her own servant are contradictory to the author's beliefs of empathy and kindness. Had she been a rebel to the family's values, that would be a different story. But it was clarified by Hugo that the beliefs she carries are shared with the rest of her bloodline. At this point, this family may as well have no connection to Charles Dickens, as this webtoon makes it clear that everything he stood for does not matter. For a story that places importance on the author's works, Writer's Legacy takes Dickens' legacy of love and sacrifice, then diminishes its existence. Not only is the creator's approach to Writer's Legacy flawed, to say the least, but her depiction of writers themselves is also far from representing the true role of a writer. In the webtoon, the writer protagonists are not so much writers in the sense that they prioritize writing. Engaging more in physical combat and carrying out covert missions, there seems to be almost no reason for them to be called writers, since it is clear that being one is more of a side job. True, their abilities are somewhat connected to their writing, as they can only summon weapons and characters during fights, but the creators largely seem to be missing their own point. The fact that they chose to use writers as the central focus of the webtoon shows how they saw them as worth creating a whole system around. Yet, this part is largely missing from the whole webtoon. The writers are less than concerned with being like the classic authors that are so highly regarded, and do not seem to know what it means to become a true writer. A person who creates worlds and people to stir the reader's emotions, to show them simple truths about life and entertain them from the daily mundane. But in Writer's Legacy, there is no point in the writer's existence since they aim for none of these things. Their goal instead appears to be becoming stronger, and for some, to take revenge on the corrupt ones in power. Although this is a good concept overall, the absence of actual writing in their future aspirations takes away the story's focus on writers themselves. The way Chisang is shown also makes the real struggle of writers completely absent from the storyline, as he can hardly be considered one in the first place. Despite wanting to become stronger, he is overconfident in his abilities and complacent. After his mentor angrily berates him for his flaw, he displays promise by doing light research and showing guilt. But there is no drafting process for his next book, brainstorming sessions, or even asking his mentor for help. His unfavorable behavior makes it almost seem as though writers do not put any work into developing their projects, and that they do not face hardships such as strict deadlines, writer's block, or health issues. As I've explained in my previous episode on classicaloid, respectfully portraying others, especially very well-known people, includes acknowledging their struggles and how they overcame them in the end. Part of why difficult jobs are highly regarded is that we are all aware of the sacrifices people make by having them. And part of why we like seeing characters with such difficult jobs is that we get to see them when they are the most human. But Chisang is simply unrelatable as a protagonist, since he lacks any significant struggle to overcome, especially as a writer. The only reason he struggled at the start was because he was a weak underdog, but he had only put himself in that position by aiming to be in the highest ranks while remaining stagnant. Like there's more to being a writer, there are challenges that come along with it. Simply ignoring them means that this webtoon understands little of writers, similar to how it does not understand their legacy. The webtoon's approach to both writers and their legacy alike shows how little they intend to show us what the writer's legacy is. What are the struggles and meanings in their stories that shape our view of humanity? Above all, the struggles and aspirations of those who bring the stories to life are nearly ignored, removing the core essence of what makes a writer. By intention or not, both have been disrespected through the story, though they should have been lifted up from the beginning. As of now, the only legacy of this webtoon would be that of wasted potential. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment down below or contact me through feelslikeliterature@gmail.com. Next up, we will be taking a slight detour from webtoons and making a short trip to the world of K-dramas. The keywords: gun, glory, and sad ending. If you know what those words mean, I hope you look forward to the next episode, and I will see you next time.